Okay, let's try this again. I see the bump, the things are bouncing. All right. Welcome to Verge. Now, I believe you heard the song Woke Up This Morning with My Mind, because what I see here as I sourced out the equipment right here, I noticed, okay, the soundboard was working fine. And this was turned on, so the little blue light was working. Everything was good there. The FireWire plug was plugged in. That was doing great. The speaker was on. But you know what? The microphone back here, that power thing right there, that wasn't plugged in. And after doing a talk on being plugged in, you'd think I'd check to see that stuff was plugged in. Everything was lit up except for the microphone. So let's see. And I'm going solo today. Reverend Johanna is with her son, and they're taking care of some things. So I don't have the wherewithal to looking at the comments while I'm on, but I did see that she said, Steve, check out your comments. So I've got one over here. So I'm going to go back over here for just a minute and leave this page and go to see if we are back on live again. And sure enough, we're back on live, and it says, okay, what have I got here? Oh, thank you. So it says, Brad, thank you for saying you heard the song on the restart. Now you got me. Heard the videos. Beautiful. Now, let's see. So what you didn't hear was all the stuff I did. Great. I'll do it again. What did I say? Forget it. I'm going to say something totally new. No, I'm going to say what I said. What I was talking about is during the week, there are a lot of us, I call us the oneness practitioners, the practitioners of oneness. We meet at 1 o'clock on Facebook for practicing oneness at 1. Many of you have seen it, but some are there regularly. And we begin each one with 3 breaths. And this would be a great time for the Rev to take 3 breaths. Join me as we take 3 conscious breaths. That's what this was all about with the tongue drum, taking conscious breaths. As my grandfather would say, boy, air is good. Breathe. So join me as we breathe. One more. And let this next one be the biggest, most conscious breath you've taken thus far today. I know you'll be taking more because it's just like I do it all day, breathing. I think you do too. It's a good idea. Here we go. Hold it. There we go. Thank you for your patience and your love and your support. It's been a while since we've had a big sound snafu like that one, and it's all about one little itty bitty plug. I love it. And that's really a great metaphor. All this stuff works. Everything is grist for the mill for the spiritual experience. And when we're not plugged into the divine power, our life goes just like that, and we feel like we don't make an impact. We're not heard in the word. This is why spiritual practices are so important. Waking up every day with your mind stayed on spirit, waking up every day with a few minutes of meditation, a few minutes in treatment or in prayer or contemplation of the divine, perhaps some sacred readings if you have that, some poetry, pet your dog or your cat, or let your cat bite you in the case of a kitten, or whatever it is that you need to do to connect to that one power and that one presence that we are a part of. And Sunday mornings, I'm so grateful to have the opportunity to connect with each of you and for you to be able to connect here despite this extended home stay. I mean, I have never been grounded this long, and my parents were strict sometimes, but that's another story. So today, we have an appearance from one of Santa's elves. We have the high consciousness of Dr. Susan Holton as our practitioner for the day. We have from across the Pacific, from the islands, Faith Rivera doing our music for today. You already saw Sherry and the Soul Purpose Band. Last week we closed out with Patricia Bahia. This week we'll close out the service with bringing back Floyd Lula with Gary Lynn Floyd and Jamie Lula doing In the Name of Love. Kathy Burt does a special surprise appearance on the service today with Reverend Johanna. We'll show you that a little bit later. And then there's the talk, Lighting Up the Darkness, as we move into this season of light. So that's a little bit of the highlights of what's coming up. There's more to come. But first, a reminder of who we are, why we're here, and what we're all about. Here it is now. We are community, inclusive, loving, and authentic. We celebrate all paths to God in gratitude, empowering self and others. We serve compassionately through outreach, inspiration, and education. That's who we are. That's why we're here. And here's what we do.
Good morning and welcome to our Virch Worship Celebration. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Mary DiVincenzo, and I'm used to doing these announcements from our platform, and I really miss doing that. But I know we're going to be back in our sanctuary next year when it's safe, and we'll be together once again. So in trying to get into this holiday spirit, I've got a few props behind me and even a picture of Santa over there. So I'm here to tell you the Here's What We Do part. So let's go. This Wednesday evening, we have a special experience with Dr. Ernest Holmes. You can join Reverend Stephen and hear the voice of Ernest Holmes at 7 p.m. on December 9th. The Zoom ID is 864-3210-7537. There's no password. You can just enter through the waiting room. Before the service, we will have yoga with Debbie beginning at 5:30 p.m. The Zoom ID is 878-5693-8671, and the password is 253932. Our group meetings this coming Saturday morning, December 12th, are the Giants and the Sacred Sisters. The Giants begins at 9 a.m. and Sacred Sisters at 10:30 a.m. You will receive a Zoom link in your email box, and it will also be posted on the website calendar. Please save these important dates. Wednesday, December 16th, we will be having a Christmas caroling party via Zoom. And Wednesday, December 23rd, we will have our traditional candle lighting service. Both of the Zoom links will be sent out ahead of the service times. Our regular weekly offerings are Play and Learn with Dr. Susan, available on our YouTube channel, with a live stream every Sunday morning at 9:30 at our cslcme.org website. Each Monday through Friday, Reverend Stephen does Practicing Oneness at 1 p.m. on his Facebook page, where he shares his daily inspirations and musings. If you need prayer, please reach out to us. Our ministers and practitioners are available for you. You can contact us at our website, cslcme.org, or you can call our office at 805-527-0870. Today's service will be uploaded to our YouTube channel, which is CSL Simi Valley. And you can also get a link to all of our archive services at cslcme.org. Have a great Sunday, and thank you for joining us.
I release, I let go, I let the Spirit run my life, and my heart is open wide. Yes, I'm only God. No more struggle, no more strife. With my faith, I see the light. I am free in the Spirit. Yes, I'm only for God.
morning and welcome. Please join me in the morning affirmation. Shining a conscious light on the deepest part of my mental scape cultivates an integrated wholeness of being. Please join me and repeat the affirmation with me. Shining a conscious light on the deepest part of my mental scape cultivates an integrated wholeness of being. I would like to share with you the writing from Reverend Jane Beach in our December Science of Mind magazine. And she's talking about connection to everything. For me, the God of my understanding is in all things at all times in every circumstance. My prayer is to feel the divine connection just as I feel the warmth of the sun's rays. The sun has no judgment about who's worthy of its warmth. It simply shines its light. We humans are a curious bunch. We wonder what gift can we possibly bring to the world, not realizing that we already have within us everything we could possibly need to shine the light we already are. We're here to express our divinity in a way that is unique to us, as only we can do. We have purpose, we belong here, we matter to the world. Today, I'll take my time to fully be present in each moment. When I forget the truth of who I am, I'll turn my face towards the sun and remember to step out of the shadows of my life to feel its warmth. It's a constant reminder that I have within me my own light to shine. Please join with me right now, and let's come together in knowing that there is one divine presence. That presence is here within each and every one of us. As we spend this moment and think and become aware of the light that is within us, and it shines out to our entire world. That world that surrounds us in our homes, in our families, in our communities. And we are of such light and joy at this moment to know that we can come together as a community, even though we're not seeing each other face to face. We simply are aware of each other in that spiritual aspect of knowing we are all one. And as we settle into being open and receptive to the wonderful sharing that Reverend Stephen is going to be doing, we know that we are uplifted, we are moved forward, and recognize the goodness and wholeness that each one of us is. With deep gratitude and thankfulness, I am, as I know you are honored, pleased, and happy to be where we are at this very moment. So we open our minds to the wonderful words that are being shared and take them in to know that they make a difference in our lives in this moment and all the moments to come. We recognize this as the oneness of what God is, and we are a divine expression of that. And together we say, and so it is.
Aloha CSL Simi Valley, it is Faith Rivera, and I'm so happy to be here with you again. I am wishing each of you the most beautiful December, the most beautiful holidays as we continue this togetherness in spirit, though we might be physically apart. We are always one, and I thank you for including me in your services, including me in your heart of love, as you are in mine always. So love and aloha. Thank you. Hello, sun and bright blue sky. Got a feeling this day's gonna be fine, so fine. Pretty birdies and butterflies, still beautiful, everything's so alive. I'm gonna bloom where I am planted, like flowers in a garden. Seasons change, people change, and I can too. Let me be brand new, get in the flow. gotta spread my wings. It's time to fly free, happy and light. It's time to fly free, happy and light. Free, happy and light. Now life is lit up so colorful, got rainbows dancing in my eyes. It's so bright. I let the sun kiss me head to toe. I'm fresh, I'm golden here in the light. I'm gonna bloom where I am planted like flowers in a garden. Seasons change, people change, and I can't too. Let me be brand new, get in the flow. It's time to grow like the first of spring. Gotta spread my wings. It's time to fly free, happy and light. It's time to fly free, happy and light. Oh, I'm free, happy and light. I'm free, happy and light. I'm free, happy and light. Yes, I'm free, happy and light. I'm breaking through. Let me be brand new. Get in the flow. It's time to grow like the first of spring. Gotta spread my wings. It's time to fly free, happy and light. I'm breaking through. Let me be brand new. Get in the flow. It's time to grow like the first of spring. Gotta spread my wings. It's time to fly free, happy and light. It's time to fly free, happy and light. Free, happy and light. Free, happy and light. Free, happy and light.
Please join me right now as we give ourselves time to settle in. We're going to be sharing a little bit of meditation, and in that, I'd like you to consider these words, and as you do, think about them as we go through this meditation. What is true of God is true of me, by Ernest Holmes. Take a deep breath. And in that breath, know that we are with our beingness of oneness. And in that oneness, we have allowed the light and the love and the truth of who we are in these moments of quiet. So as we move into our next activity, we do so with that same attitude and that same thought.
Let's raise our voices and shine our light together. Let's go. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, oh let it shine, shine. Everybody sing it, shine, shine. You know you want to, oh, shine, shine. Hey, all around the world, shine, shine, yeah. Everywhere I go, what are you gonna do? I'm gonna let it shine, yeah. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine, yeah. Everywhere I go, oh yeah. Said I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, oh let it shine, shine. Everybody sing it, shine, shine. You know you want to, oh, shine, shine. Hey, all around the world, shine, shine. Repeat after me. When there's light in the soul, when there's light in the soul, there is beauty in the person. When there's beauty in the person, there is harmony in the home. There is harmony in the home. Oh, when there's harmony in the home, there is honor in the nation. Honor in the nation. When there's honor in the nation, honor in the nation. There is peace in the world. No more living in fear. We're gonna let it shine. We're gonna let it shine. Yeah. No more living in fear. No way. We're gonna let it shine, shine. No more living in fear. No way. Said we're gonna let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine. Oh, let it shine, shine. Everybody sing it. Shine, shine. You know you want to. Shine, shine. Hey, all around the world. Shine, shine. All my brothers and sisters, yes. Shine, shine. Shine your light for the world. Shine, shine. Be bright, be bold. Shine, shine. Oh, you know you want to. Shine, shine your light for the world. Ooh, yeah.
Ah, yes, Faith. Shine, shine. Let that light shine for the world. Let your bright light shine. I love how she jazzed it up, too. Let your light shine. Especially when we're trying to light up the darkness. That's the talk for today. It's called Lighting Up the Darkness. And it comes from the idea that we, this experience of life, it's so interesting because we are living a oneness from a space of duality. Two hands, two eyes, two nostrils, two ears, all these doubles, up, down, left, right, yet we're to pull it all together. And that also is also an aspect of who we are within that is also kind of split. So we'll talk a little bit about that, and particularly this time of year, it's just the season of light. I mean, we're rolling toward Christmas, the Christ consciousness, Christ, the light of man to bring the peace upon earth. And the scriptural idea behind the Christ consciousness is very much, bringing peace, healing the world. But the metaphysical aspect is to look at the Christ consciousness as a bringer of wholeness and to an end of separation, not so much to save us from sin. In the Science of Mind teachings, we don't believe that God made mistakes. God's not a sinful God. God is a God of the good. If God were a sinful God, he creates sin. Sin is really a mistake. It's a misapplication of the spiritual principles that we live by. And the Christ consciousness, that idea of wholeness, brings us to a place where we can live those principles in our lives in a way that we bring more harmony, bring that light of peace into our life. It's much like in the scriptures. Here's one from Isaiah. It's chapter 9, verse 2. It says, "The people who walk in darkness will see a great light. Those who live in the land of the shadow of death, upon them the light will shine." Now, that scripture reading was a portend, a prophecy of the coming of Jesus to be the Christ, the Messiah. But if we break that reading down from a metaphysical perspective, the people who walk in darkness will see a great light. You see, many of us walk in darkness without knowing it. We see through a glass dimly lit without understanding that behind the consciousness that we live, there is a shadow, as Jung had called it. There is a shadow consciousness behind us, see? So we are people who walk in darkness all the time, but if we can see the shadow, we can walk in a great light. There are those of us who live in the land of shadow of death. Upon them the light will shine. In other words, there are people who are aware of their shadow. They walk with that shadow, which some people think is a negative aspect of our consciousness. I don't believe that, and I'll talk more about that in a minute. So those people who are aware of their shadow, for them, upon them, the light will shine. Do you see how when we take a biblical passage and break it down from a metaphysical perspective, it becomes a lesson. It becomes our manual for living our life so that we can associate the Christ consciousness not just with the light of peace, the Prince of Peace, the Prince to bring that into our lives, but we can also look at these ideas as to bring wholeness, as to bring the Science of Mind sees things in principle, sees spiritual in principle ways. And the interesting thing about the science likes to weigh things, measure things, and get a calculation, a quantitative idea of things. But in Science of Mind, we can't weigh many of the things we believe in. You can't weigh or measure principles. You can't weigh gravity. You can't weigh love. You can't weigh beauty. You can't weigh harmony. But you know they're still effective because we can see and feel beauty. We can experience love and harmony. So unlike science, we don't weigh them, but we believe in them. And this is something that Dr. Holmes was very clear about in how he distilled the teachings of the ancient wisdoms into something that we could use on a regular basis. He says right here that just as it is science's constant and sincere effort to discover the nature of the unseen cause back of all things, just as it is science's constant and sincere effort to discover the nature of the unseen cause back of all things, it should be our endeavor to discover within ourselves that determining factor which makes our life and experience what they are. That's our journey, to look within and discover within ourselves the determining factors that make our life and experience what they are. And one of those determining factors is the shadow. The individual shadow and the collective shadow. And we see the evidence of the shadow all the time. In individual shadow, we see the evidence of it. I see it in books, in the bookshelves. There are so many self-help books. You got the analyst, colleges make tons of money training therapists. I have a therapist. Nothing wrong with therapists. Got to say that. But, we have a lot of work where we're looking and we see the evidence of the shadow in the individual self. And we see the evidence of the collective shadow. Don't believe me? Just look at the front page of the newspaper. The headlines every day are a blast of our collective shadow. For if we really understood and brought this idea of wholeness and oneness into understanding, if we were to walk in the darkness so that we see the great light, if we could live in the shadow of that negative experience, some people think it is, the shadow self, and really live in the light of that, we would see a great light. We would bring an end to some of the suffering that we read about every day on the daily papers. See, we all contribute to this, whether it's individually or collectively. We contribute to it by commission, we contribute to it by omission, we contribute to it by dismissing. by not paying attention, to just not looking. But see, evolution requires us. It requires evolution of consciousness requires a certain integration in our lives. It's not by accident the way life works. You know, you grow up and you just can't wait to be an adult. And as soon as you get to be an adult, you got to get a job, you got to get a family, you got to raise your family, you got to buy a house, you got to get a car, and you're all about making all that stuff happen. All that ego stuff that gets to happen. And then somewhere after a midlife crisis, be it a Porsche, a motorcycle, or a trip around the world, or a walk across Spain, however that shows up, somewhere after that, an integration begins to take place. I think that's one of the reasons why the science mind teaching is so appealing to us as we get a little bit older, and it's so and we so want it for younger people so they don't have to go through some of the stuff that we went through to get to this point. But the idea is that as a little bit later we begin to want to integrate, you see, because it's a call that's been happening all along. The shadow aspects of our lives are really just tap 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 saying, hey, pay attention to me. Here's Jacob Lieberman, an author who wrote a lot about light and shadow. And he says, what we call our shadow is nothing more than an aspect of our nature waiting to be embraced. What part of you is waiting to be embraced? As I was thinking about how this all works, think about back to plugs for just a minute. I'm not going to unplug to show you the plug, because if I unplug the plug, then we won't get no more sound. We've been there already. But when you look at the plug, it has two prongs. It takes those two prongs, a positive and a negative, to go into the power source, to make the power source useful, to make the electrical plug useful. And that's the way I look at this nature, this aspect of us waiting to be embraced and reclaimed. It's like the left prong and the right prong want to come together and be empowered so that we can be more powerful. Reminds me of one of my favorite episodes of Star Trek. It was called The Enemy Within. Mid-60s when Star Trek was out. You realize it's what a lasting impact it's had on our culture. But this was the Enemy Within. Some of you Trekkies will already know this one. This is when they were dispatched to Alpha something, 177 or something like that. Ooh, I know too many trivial Star Trek facts. Anyway, they hit off to this other planet. And Kirk's down with the landing party, and he comes back up, but this dust had gotten into the transporter, and it split Kirk into two, into his positive side and his darker side. And here's what happened: his more positive, loving, peaceful side couldn't make decisions, couldn't lead. Found himself questioning everything, whereas the darker side was running rampant, drinking Romanian ale and running ramp shot through the Enterprise. And they finally, what they had to do, because they were both getting wilder as they were more separate, what they had to do was put them back into the transporter and put them back together as one. Had to be embraced and reclaimed. And that's the journey of looking at our shadow. That's the journey of religion. It's to help us to do that. The word religion itself is religiero, the Latin word to bond, to bring Kirk back together, to join the two left sides and the right sides into one side, to bridge the good with what is considered to be the negative, which is really part of the wholeness, and that's our we have the faculty to do that. I know that everyone here does, and with Dr. Jim being here so many years, I know he did a lot of work with shadow. So really what I'm actually talking to is the choir, who's done a lot of shadow work. But as religiarity is, it's to bond, to remember, to rejoin, and sometimes we forget all of this stuff. We forget that we have within us the sacred faculty, the inherent power, the spiritual ability to receive the pearl of great price. And that pearl of great price is a mental, emotional, spiritual, physical oneness, and to live from that place. And it requires being uncomfortable with the uncomfortable, being comfortable with the uncomfortable. It requires sometimes facing conflict and conflicting inner tensions in order to embrace the opposites. And we do so with courage, you see. And when we do that with courage, we alter our fate. because we move through with all the different aspects of who we are. It's a lovely little book. One of my favorite things is to read little books. It gives me such a sense of pleasure that I can sit down and in an hour knock out a whole book. Okay, so it only had 27 pages, but still, I read it in an hour. So this one, maybe 78 pages, 100 if I'm lucky. It's Robert Johnson. It's called Owning Our Own Shadow. And in it he says, any repair of our fractured world must start with individuals who have the insight and the courage to own their own shadow. The insight and the courage to own their own shadow. And it takes some courage because the shadow is powerful. It has vigor. It can impress a situation in our lives. We can project it onto somebody else. We can act from it without even recognizing, because the shadow lives in the place of the unknown. It's not just the unknown. It's the unknown to the unknown. We don't even know that we don't know what it's all about. Right? I mean, here's an example of it. I had a friend. Oh, here. Wait. Tangent cam. I had a friend in college. His name was Adele. And we would go to his house to play dominoes. And we used a lot of colorful speech when we were in college. And when we were playing dominoes, the games would get pretty heated. Well, Adele had a very favorite phrase that he would like to say. And when the game would get heated, you know who would say the phrase? His parrot. His parrot would say the phrase, because parrots learn curse words faster than they learn the sweet words that we want them to know. Because the curse words come from the darker side of us. They come from a shadow experience, you see. This is how the shadow works. The shadow works just like a parrot. Did you like the tangent, Cam? The shadow works just like the parrot. It just shows up and it acts before we even know. It's screaming at us before we even recognize what it's doing. This is why this Episcopalian priest and Jungian analyst named Jack Sanford says this almost blasphemous statement. He says that you must understand that God loves your shadow much more than he does your ego. Loves your shadow much more than he does your ego. That's a fun one to break down. You see, our ego, it protects, it defends, it deflects. It has a vision of itself that it likes to project across the world. Shadow, don't care. It's authentic. It's real. It's dirty. It's nasty. It's down and dirty. But it's real. The ego stands up in front of it. In front of our lives, stands in the bright light of spirit and says, me, this is me, God, this is me, God, this is me, God. And in doing so, it casts a shadow. And that part back there that's not getting any attention screams like the parrot in our life. See, we're standing in God's life and in God's light, but so often it's the ego standing in God's light, and what happens then is the shadow gets created from it. But what we need to do, and so in some ways, the shadow is not unlike the Hindu myth that talked about where are we going to put the divine when all the Hindu gods got together. Where should we put this divine experience? Should we bury it deep in the earth? And they said, no, man, I'll dig it up and find it there. Okay, well, should we put it in the depths of the ocean? No, man, I'll swim down or fish and haul it out. Should we put it up on a mountaintop? No, he'll climb the mountain, he'll get it out. And then a voice from the back of the room says, put it in his heart. And so they put the divine experience in our heart, because it's a long journey from head to heart, and it's still really hard for a lot of us to find. And the ego is so busy standing up in God's light that it's hard enough for us to find some of those aspects of ourselves that get cast away and put down into the shadow. You see? But we must know this about ourselves. As Robert Johnson says, no one can do anything about a part of one's nature one does not know anything about. Cannot do anything about a part of your nature you don't know anything about. So we must study that. This is why the knights, the story of the knights going into battle to battle the dragons. They don't know what's going to happen on this trail. They don't know what's going to happen when they meet up with the fire-breathing dragon. But something within them, they have the sacred faculty, the inherent power to stand in front of that and battle that. And we have that same kind of power to battle that part of ourselves that's a little darker, that's a little less more consciously expressed. To to battle the shadow's unconscious power. It's parrot voice. So what do? What do? Well, we light it up. We light it up. We light up, not fire it up, but light it up by the consciousness awareness, by integrating it, by confronting and collaborating with it, and then co-joining with this idea. Holmes says that that we can unconsciously think ourselves into a lot of trouble. But he also says that we can consciously think ourselves out of trouble. We can consciously think ourselves into it. We can consciously think ourselves out of unconscious trouble we've created for ourselves. That's a mouthful that I'm not going to say again. But here's what we can do. He's got a solution for us. Where is it? Right here. There it is, right there. He says, we cannot help thinking, but we can learn to think in a way that is for our betterment rather than our detriment. For our betterment rather than for our detriment. The science of mind is that way, a way of looking at those various sides of ourselves and bringing them together. But we do this work from a space of humility. See, we can never think we're enlightened. Anybody who thinks they're enlightened, newsflash, you're not enlightened. You can't think. It's like, in my humble opinion, I don't know, maybe not. If you're saying it, no. And see, the ego is the shadow caster, as I said, and it wants to stand up and tell us that we got it all going on when we don't have it all going on. And the minute we do, the parrot voice back in the background will show up in some kind of way, that we get to go back all around again and find another dragon to go out and battle, find another parrot to tame. You see, the greatest of all kinds. Jesus got mad at the money changers, The greatest of all kinds only glimpse these minute by minute, momentary experiences of wholeness. And then, boom, we're cast back out. It's like the guy that went up into the mountain. He goes up to the mountaintop to commune with the divine, and he feels like he's all there, and he's coming down the mountain, and these yak herders are coming up the mountain, and he's asking them to get out of the way because, he doesn't want to, he's like, let me get by, and he's trying to get by, and he steps in some yak, and boom, he goes, oh, man, he lets out a parrot word, and next thing you know, he's back up on the mountain trying to get one again. So the journey is to use our sacred faculty to join together, to bond together in wholeness with our inner and our outer being, and then to live our life on a daily basis that way. This is why we do spiritual practice, to remind ourselves, while we wake up in prayer, while we wake up with our mind on spirit, while we look in a way in our lives so that we can light up the darkness. And so it is. Our affirmation for today. Shining a conscious light on the deepest parts of my mental scape cultivates an integrated wholeness of being. Let me try that again. Shining a conscious light on the deepest parts of my mental scape cultivates an integrated wholeness of being. It is now time for our healing, revealing prayer. I moved it last week from the healing prayer to the revealing prayer, knowing that, yes, there are things that we're calling forth to be healed, but that's our experience of what we see. But the truth, the spiritual truth behind what we're seeing, is that there is a wholeness that needs to be revealed. So, really quickly, I'm going to pull this down, and I'm looking over at the other areas to see if there were any. I'm scrolling through to see if anybody put any prayer request in. Changing our shadow, doing well, sounds back. Okay, I don't see any. If you have any, please put them in there. After the service, I will go through and pull them out, and we will share those with the eCore, who will pray over your treatment requests throughout the week. Okay, so join me now. I'm going to do another tongue drum breath. Living, feeling, and knowing there is a divine space of wholeness with which we all partake. In this moment, I recognize that wholeness as divine and perfect, and know that we have, through this process of conscious awareness of the oneness, have joined together our inner and our outer to bring a sense of peace and harmony into our lives. I'm knowing that right here and now, the word that I speak spreads out and becomes the truth of each person who is listening. I speak these words for myself, knowing that I also speak them for all that are hearing. So when I say I, hear it as you saying I, for we are one. And so I know that there is prosperity and abundance flowing in every person's life. I know that whatever sense of limitation I am experiencing in this moment is nothing but a blip in the consciousness of the divine, grabbing at my attention to realize the truth that there is more and more than enough, that there is always that nudge of spirit, that never unending push of the divine to say, yes, my beloved, I am here to give you the gifts of the kingdom as you receive. It is done unto you as you believe. And in this moment, I accept belief in the wholeness, the harmony, the peace, the joy, the health, the well-being, the perfect employment, the right relationship, the harmonious judgments, the ending of strife and stress, and the opening to new ideas and a wholeness that brings life more fully to each and every person. I affirm this because I know in my gratitude and in my acceptance and in my conviction that one thing remains as a constant, and that is that God is. And so it is, and so it shall be, for it is true that God is.
Where I am, God is. Where I stand, God is standing strong. Where I breathe, God is breathing life in and out and through me. It's me. Where I sing, God is. Where I dance, joy lifts my feet. Where I live, beauty's flowing free, in and out and through me. It's me. From where I'm down, God is the faith in me. Where I cry, God is the comfort there. Where I seek, God is the answer. Here and now, forever and ever and ever. Where I speak, truth is. Where I work, love is my career. Where I play, God is playing boldly, in and out and through me. As me. Oh, yeah, yeah. Where I am, where I stand, where I play, where I work and breathe and move and be, where I sing, where I dance, my dance, wherever I go, where I pray and take and give and live. God is, life is, joy is, oh, God is.
The spirit of abundance flows through me. It lives inside my breath. As I inhale, the flow of abundance resides in every breath.
You have been sharing with me why you would like to give, and I love what you have to say.
This community has supported me and loved me through some of the most challenging parts of my life and some of the most joyous parts of my life. And, you know, I am part of this community forever. And so of course I want to support it. And I love to give. And you know what? It's kind of selfish that I feel like I'm getting choked up, but anyway, I'm just going to keep going. But I feel like it's a little bit selfish because one of the best parts about giving is how good it makes me feel. It makes me feel so good to give. At first, I didn't give a lot, but you know, oh, that's one thing I wanted to say. The way to gauge it is give to the point where it feels good. And then maybe a little scotch extra, because it should be a little stretch. And because you're telling the universe that I am prosperous and this is important to me. And it's so important that I'm going to give to my best ability.
I love it that you said in the beginning, it's like it just brings you so much joy. I can relate to that, right? It's like writing that check. It's
Yes.
able to give. I can hear it in your voice and see it. And it's really great.
It is really great. And this is the time when we all get to feel a little great. And if you'd like to join us in this prayer and pledge of abundance that we do each week, and if you want to see more of the conversation with Kathy Burt and Reverend Johanna, come back next week. There's more. It's just as fun, a smudge more fun. Here we go. Divine love is doing its perfect work here and now. Divine love harmonizes. Divine love adjusts. Divine love prospers. Divine love foresees everything and richly provides every good thing for CSL Simi Valley now. Divine love is victorious.
I'm thankful, so grateful. I am one in the spirit around me. I'm thankful, so grateful. I trust in God. I surrender surrender. I am one in the spirit around me. I surrender. I surrender. I trust in God. I trust in God.
Join with me as we bless these gifts that we have all given to one another and to our wonderful community. We know that each time we give, we receive in abundance. And we are honored and blessed and feel truly grateful to know that we can give of who we are, not only our time, but our presence and our financial gifts. We do so with love and with light, with peace and with joy. And we know that it makes a difference, not only for ourselves, for all those that we know, we see, we feel, and we touch. And we are blessed and know that this is so right here and now.
Thank you, Dr. Susan. And thank all of you for being here today. Without you here, well, I wouldn't have known that the mic wasn't working. We wouldn't have had this time together. And it wouldn't have been as special because it requires all of us in community to be what is CSL Simi Valley. So thank yourself for getting up this morning and opening up the laptop or the telephone or the iPad and tuning in through Facebook and perhaps sharing it with a friend if you did so, or even later today you can tell somebody else to come back and look at it. And of course it'll be on our YouTube, on the archives for future reference, and it's always here on Facebook too to go back through and scroll through. Because sometimes it's great, in the middle of the week you might think, I need a little spiritual jolt. And so what do? You just go back and pick up one of the songs, or go back through the talk, or share it with a friend and discuss what's going on, which is what we'll do after service on Opera Verge. In fact, I'll put that in the chat window. I'll put it in there right now so you can join after service for Opera Verge, a little 30-minute thing. We'll just kind of chit-chat and discuss things that are going on in our lives. I want to thank Faith Rivera for being here for today, for recording her videos from Hawaii and being such a trooper with that for us. Same thing with Dr. Susan and for John. A shout out for John Newbill, who went over and recorded those in the office for Dr. Susan when she was there doing office work this week. In fact, that makes me want to share some gratitude for our office staff who continues to hold the place together while we are away, taking short visits in, safer and prudent distancing to work a couple days during the week to take care of the administrative business that's necessary for the church. We all stop by there for doing that. Me, Dr. Susan, Lane Taylor, and Bridget Silberstein. Thank you for them, and thank you to our Board of Trustees for the activities that you're doing to hold us together, to keep us financially solvent. And that means a thank you back all to you for your support. As Kathy talked about, it's a joy to give, but it's also important to support our spiritual community. Thanks to Jamie Lula and Gary Lynn Floyd Lula doing our closing song. Sherry Deeds, the Soul Purpose Band. I think I mentioned Kathy Bird, Reverend Johanna for pulling together the Contemplating Abundance and the support that she gives us each week. And let's see, and Mary Deed, the Santa Elf, for doing the Santa work this week. And I think I got everybody in that I wanted to thank for being a part of what's going on. And thank you for the people that created Switcher Studio that allows us to do this. And that guy that came up with this thing called, what is it called? Oh yeah, the World Wide Web. Amazing. All right, so let's do our closing benediction, and then we will sing In the Name of Love along with Gary Lynn and Jamie Lula. Here you go. I'm at home in the heart of God. My life is anchored in truth. I can never be separate. I live in the consciousness of peace. I release all fear. I am living love.
Hey, Simi Valley, we're grateful that you're here. This is from Floyd Lula.
We love you. Here we go. 2, 3, 4. In the name of love, with a heart of grace, overflow in us and decorate this place. As it is below, so it is above. May we always stand in the name of love. When the veil is gone, there's only one of us, only one, in the name of love. When the day is done, we will sing this song all as one, in the name of love.
In the name of love, may we always be seeking out the best till we all are free. Living in a world we've been dreaming of, where we stand as one in the name of love. When the veil is gone, there's only one of us, only one, in the name of love. When the day is done, we will sing this song all as one, in the name of love. 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 When the veil is gone, there's only one of us, only one, in the name of love. When the day is done, we will sing this song all as one, in the name of love. When the veil is gone, there's only one of us, only one, in the name of love. When the day is done, we will sing this song all as one, in the name of love. 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 Oh yeah. In the name of love. 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 Peace and blessing.
We love you.
See you next week. Have a great week.